Hi everyone, welcome back to Steve's View. Today we're going to talk about something that really caught my attention, and honestly, it should make all of us stop and think. I recently watched the full video of a meeting that almost nobody expected to happen in the way it did. The United States brought back nearly 1,000 generals from around the world, from one-star officers all the way up to 4 stars, for what has been described as the largest gathering of American flag officers since World War II. Think about that for a second. Generals flew in from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, from commands in Japan and South Korea, from Africa, you name it. Everyone had to be physically present. No Zoom, no remote dial-in, no secure video conference. In an era where technology can connect leaders instantly, the Pentagon insisted on having them all in the same room. That alone tells you this was no ordinary event. And since I actually watched the full speeches, not just media summaries or second-hand reports, I can tell you exactly what was said. More importantly, I can share what I think it really means. The first major speaker was Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. And right from the start, he made it clear the main focus of his remarks was culture. Now, when politicians and defense officials talk about culture, it often sounds abstract or symbolic. But Hegseth was very direct. He said the U.S. military had, in his words, drifted too far into woke culture and DEI-style policies, things like diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that were fashionable in politics and corporations over the past decade. Hegseth's argument was blunt. All of that weakened the U.S. military's combat readiness. Instead of focusing on warfighting skills, discipline, and toughness, the Pentagon in recent years had been distracted by social experiments. He said, in effect, that America cannot afford a military where identity politics matters more than battlefield capability. Let me break down the main points he hammered home. 1. Fitness and weight standards. Hegseth said outright that soldiers cannot be weak soldiers and generals cannot be fat generals. He called out the way some officers had let physical standards slide, hiding behind medical excuses or bureaucratic loopholes. He emphasized weight control, health management, and combat-level physical readiness, not just passing a test once a year, but maintaining it all the time, the highest male standard. This part was striking. He said that all combat troops, regardless of gender, will now be measured against the highest male physical standard. If you're a woman and you meet it, great, you've proven yourself beyond doubt. If you don't, you simply don't belong in a combat role. His point was clear. War doesn't care about diversity quotas. When bullets are flying, only strength, endurance, and toughness matter. 3. Grooming and appearance. He also touched on what might sound minor, but in military culture, it's important. Grooming, haircut rules, facial hair, overall appearance. He said those standards had slipped with too much leniency, and he wanted them tightened again, because, as he put it, discipline starts with the small things. Uniforms, haircuts, how you carry yourself. A sloppy appearance breeds sloppy performance. 4. Promotions based on merit. Hegseth emphasized that promotions and career advancement must be based on performance and merit, not on identity, symbolic appointments, or political pressure. He said too many officers had been promoted because they represented a first or checked a diversity box rather than being the most capable leader. That had to end. 5. The warrior ethos. This was a recurring phrase, warrior ethos. Hegseth repeated it several times. He said the military must recenter itself on being a warrior force, a body of people whose sole mission is to fight and win wars, not to serve as a social laboratory, not to get bogged down in HR-style bureaucracies, but to be razor-focused on combat power. 6. Loyalty and command responsibility. He also delivered what sounded like warnings to commanders and senior officers. He said loyalty was expected. Loyalty not just to the institution, but to the mission and to the civilian leadership overseeing defense. He warned against internal politics and disobedience, and reminded the generals that accountability starts at the top. 7. Complaint system reforms. Another interesting detail. He said the Defense Department will overhaul its discrimination and harassment complaint systems. Right now, those processes take too long, allow too many anonymous or repeat complaints, and get abused for personal grudges. He promised a faster, stricter, more streamlined system, so real problems get addressed, but frivolous or manipulative complaints don't bog down the force. 8. Defense industry and onshoring. Toward the end, Hegseth also touched on America's defense industrial base. He said the U.S. needs to strengthen its domestic capacity, bring more manufacturing and procurement back home, and reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. In other words, rebuild a true war-ready defense economy on American soil. Put together, the message was unmistakable. Hegseth wants to drag the U.S. military away from woke politics and back toward a leaner, tougher, merit-based, combat-first force. After Hegseth, President Trump spoke. Now, I've got to be honest here. His speech was long, over an hour, but only about a third of it was really about the military. Much of it was, frankly, classic Trump, attacking President Biden, criticizing past administrations, listing his own accomplishments since taking office again. Some of it was entertaining in that signature Trump style, but if we're talking substance, it was a mixed bag. The military-related parts echoed Hegseth's themes: stronger readiness, pride in the force, cutting out distractions. But Trump didn't add much new policy detail. Compared to Hegseth's speech, his felt less focused, more political, and frankly, a bit rambling. If you were expecting a detailed war plan or a new doctrine, you didn't get it. And here's the real question. Would the U.S. government really call back nearly 1,000 generals from every theater in the world just to lecture them about fitness standards, haircuts, and woke culture? The answer is no. That can't be the full story. Yes, those cultural resets matter. They send a message, they build momentum, they get everyone on the same page. But those speeches were just the surface, the warm-up act. Hegseth himself even said there would be another major speech on another day. And he hinted at what that topic would be: the nature of threats in the Western Hemisphere, and how to deter China. That, I think, is the real reason for this unprecedented gathering. Let's look at the global picture. Russia and Ukraine. Right now, the Russia-Ukraine war is basically a stalemate. Russia has bled itself heavily. Its economy is under strain. Its military is stretched thin. Yes, it can keep grinding, but it doesn't have the will or the capacity to take on the United States directly. The Middle East. Hamas and Hezbollah have been devastated. Israel, with American backing, has crushed their capabilities. And their sponsor, Iran, has been hammered too, by Israeli strikes, by U.S. bombing, by its own internal weakness. Iran is not in a position to launch a big regional war anytime soon. China. That leaves China. Unlike Russia or Iran, China has both the capacity and the ambition. It has built up its navy, expanded its missile forces, and carried out massive military drills aimed at Taiwan. Its leadership openly talks about reunification, and its propaganda has become more militant by the year. China is preparing for the possibility of war, and preparing seriously. That's why the Pentagon called in all those generals, because in the end, the U.S. military's biggest looming challenge is not Moscow or Tehran, it's Beijing. So when I put it all together, here's how I see it. The cultural speech was important. It reset expectations. It told the generals, the era of DEI and woke politics is over. From now on, you're judged by combat readiness, by toughness, by results. Trump's speech was more political than military, but it served to rally the room, to show that the commander-in-chief is watching. But the hidden agenda, the unspoken reason for dragging 1,000 generals across the globe into one place, is preparation for a potential showdown with China. This was not just a retreat. It was a mobilization signal. Now here's the part where I turn it to you. If the U.S. is gearing up this seriously, if the Secretary of War is rebuilding the military culture from the ground up, and if China is the true target of this mobilization, what does that mean for the years ahead? Are we watching the early stages of a Cold War-style confrontation, or are we on the path to an actual hot conflict? That's the question I want to leave you with.